This week in the Fun Not Fear house, we introduced a new kitten to our family. Find out how we've integrated the kitten with our young and bouncy dog. Hi, I'm Freya Locke, dog parent of Twyla the Springador, owner of my on-the-ground business Locke's Dogs, behaviourist and trainer, and the creator of the online Fun Not Fear school, club and podcast. We know there's nothing in life that can be taught with fear that can't be taught with fun apart from fear itself, and so it's our mission to teach you how to have a great life with your dog with none of the aversive equipment and icky methods of the past. Why listen to me? Well, when it comes to dogs who have behaviour struggles, I've been there and got the t-shirt. Guiding my own dog through his many struggles, I realised behaviour is my passion in life. I got qualified and have now helped hundreds of dogs with anxiety-based struggles, both in person and over the internet. I also know that dog parents want clear, easy and jargon-free advice they can follow that actually works. We'll make it easy for you and your dog to have the fun, not fear life you need together and overcome any anxiety your dog might struggle with, without doing anything complicated or difficult, without doing anything scary, and by simply having fun with your dog, playing games and doing the things you both enjoy. Everyone knows that cats and dogs are mortal enemies, right? Or are they? They can be friends when introduced properly and in the right way. This week we introduced a 9-week-old male kitten to our family, and I'm going to share with you how we're integrating the kitten in such a way that our high chase drive Springador puppy is accepting the new arrival, and the new arrival is kept feeling safe and happy too. So, as you gathered by now, we've got a new kitten called Catticus. Now, Catticus was actually called Catthew to start with, but we decided we didn't want to call him Catthew after all. Catticus was going to be his name, so Catticus it is. Now, Catticus is 9 weeks old. He's very small, very fluffy. He has great big ears and long legs and big claws, and he meows very sweetly. Twyla, my pup, well, I say pup, she's nearly 2. She is very bouncy, she has a high chase drive, and she loves to chase cats. So we knew we'd have to introduce the two really carefully. Now, Twyla has had a few, shall we say, incidences with cats. Now, the cats up and down our road, a few of them, I swear they do it on purpose, actually. A few of them, they sit outside on the gas boxes outside the houses, and they watch and they wait, and when dog walkers and the dogs walk past, the cats run down the path, get under the cars, and then they jump out and claw the dogs as they're walking past, and then jump back under the cars again. And this has happened several times to Twyla, even when she's been walking past quite innocently. It also happened to my Moo on many an occasion, and it happens to quite a lot of the other dogs up and down the road too. So it's not just our dogs it happens to all of them. And so Twyla has a very suspicious view of cats, and obviously, you know, with Catticus being a very tiny little cat, we have to be really, really careful. So when it comes to being careful, one of the first things we have to consider is management. Now, management is absolutely key to any training plan. The thing is, with animals, whatever they practice is what they'll get good at. And sometimes they practice things we want them to get good at, and sometimes they practice things we don't want them to get good at. And we don't want to be punishing and, you know, yelling at the dog and telling them off every time they go near the cat, or vice versa, because then all that will happen is that animal will have a negative association with the other animal. If every time they go near the cat they get told off, they're not going to like the cat very much. So we have to find other ways of making it impossible as much as we can for them to do anything that's going to negatively affect their relationship with the cat. So management is the key. We need things like stair gates. Twyla has a crate that she sleeps in at night to stop her chewing up my bedroom. And we've also got a kitten playpen, and we've moved all our furniture around so that Catticus will have escape routes. Now, Catticus needs plenty of space away from Twyla, and she needs breaks away from him so as not to get over aroused and so they don't overwhelm each other. And so we created an escape route, as if a cat can escape, they're far less likely to get their claws out. And if they can just leave the situation instead, it's going to be much better for both the cat and the dog. So Twyla can't get behind the sofa and she can't get through the stair gates, which are at either side of our living room. So this then creates a safe passage from our kitchen all the way through the living room right into the outside hall. So Catticus can run through there if he doesn't feel like seeing Twyla. So one of the things we did decide with Twyla is that we were going to have to teach her to like Catticus. There's no good just putting them in a room together and hoping that everything will work out, because if it doesn't, then everything will get 10 times worse. So I've done lots and lots of playing with Twyla and teaching her disengagement games. Now in this case, disengagement games means being able to see the thing, come away from the thing, be unbothered by the thing, and then be rewarded for that. So we've been teaching her lots and lots of games doing this with this kind of concept. And rather than telling her off or not letting her be around the cat, we've been using disengagement games instead. So if we were to just tell her that she wasn't allowed near the cat, if we just punished the behaviour every time she went near the cat, then first of all, that was, like I say, would make a negative association, but it would also then make her more curious about the cat. And knowing Twyla, that would make her all the more, what's the word I'm looking for? Determined to get to the cat. And if she's developing a negative association with him at the same time, then that could be disastrous. So, as I say, disengagement games have been absolutely key. So the other thing we've decided to do with Twyla is trying to keep her routines as much as possible. So she doesn't tend to have a set routine whereby we'll go for a walk at the same time every day to the same place, or, you know, we'll do the same thing at the same time. I come in at all different times of day from work, the kids are in and out. You know, we don't have like a set routine where we get up at 7:30, we walk the dog at 8, we have breakfast at 8:30, then we go to work, then we go to school, then we come home, then we do this and we do that. That doesn't work in our world. And a lot of dogs who are a little anxious, they need a routine. That is something that that helps them to feel like they have some control in their lives. However, dogs that are not particularly anxious, or dogs that are like Twyla, possibly a little bit highly strung, but you know, not got any particular worries really, introducing a routine can sometimes make it harder for them, because if they expect to be walked every evening at 5 o'clock and then you come down with a cold or a sick bug and you decide not to walk them, then they're pacing around the house at 5 o'clock waiting for their walk. You know, so that can actually cause problems sometimes as well. But some routines, such as where she sleeps at night, or, you know, the places where she eats her dinner, the toys she eats her dinner from, you know, that kind of thing, we're keeping all of that exactly the same and working Catticus around what Twyla does. Because what we don't want to do is have a cat in the house that will confuse her and, you know, raise the arousal levels quite a lot. And then, you know, have her feel like she is, you know, missing her usual sleeping spot, or, you know, anything else. We don't want to be adding things to the confusion that's already going on. So any routines that we have with Twyla, we've already been keeping as much as possible. So when we first brought Catticus home, we spent the first day being really careful to introduce them to each other as gradually as possible. Now, the temptation is to grab the kitten, go running over to the dog, go, oh, look at this, and show them, and they're thinking that everything's going to be wonderful. And chances are you'll end up with a dog who's absolutely either bouncing off the walls with joy or, you know, recoiling in horror that you've brought this thing into their house. And at the same time, you'll have this kitten in a brand new house with people it doesn't know, you know, being thrust into the face of a predator. So you don't really want to do that. The easiest way to introduce them is to actually keep them separate. So we had the cat in Ellie's bedroom, my daughter's bedroom, and he was up there getting fusses and getting acquainted with his food bowls and his litter tray and his toys and so on. And the dog, Twyla, was downstairs with me in the living room. And periodically throughout the day, I was going upstairs and playing with the cat and then coming back downstairs so that Twyla could smell me, and vice versa. The cat could then smell Twyla on me. We swapped blankets so that the cat's blanket came downstairs, Twyla's blanket went upstairs, and they could smell each other that way. And they could hear each other. Now, they did get a couple of fleeting glimpses of each other, but they weren't actually allowed to get to each other, and it wasn't for any particular length of time. So then when I took Twyla out for her walk that evening, the kitten came downstairs and was allowed to explore the living room in full. So he was running around the sofas, he was having the time of his life in the curtains, he was running up and down and all over the place. And he was also allowed out and around the living room when I took Twyla upstairs to bed. So this then gave Twyla the chance to sniff around the living room, to adjust to the idea that there was a cat in the environment, even if she couldn't get to it just yet. And, because he was sort of coming and going, it was seeming to her that he wasn't going to be disappearing at any point that day. So she was super highly aroused, and we didn't want them to get off on the wrong foot. So although we let them know of each other's existence on that day, we didn't really push it any further than that. So the next day, Twyla was a little bit calmer. She came down the stairs expecting to smell the cat, and so it wasn't such a big surprise to her. I popped her on a lead. We put Catticus in a large pen, and I then walked Twyla through past the pen to the kitchen, and let her see him from the other side of a stairgate on a lead. Now, naturally, she was hopping around all over the place and very, very excited. But the kitten wasn't really taking much notice, and he wasn't really too bothered unless Twyla got too close to him. So after she'd had, some breakfast and she'd been out to the toilet, we started to do a little bit of disengagement work with her in the kitchen. And we built up to she began being able to look at the kitten and then look away, look at the kitten and then look away. And then we worked up to having her on the lead still, walking slightly into the living room, look at the kitten and then move away again. And she was being rewarded with ham, which is one of her most favourite things, every time she was able to walk away. Now, what we weren't doing is we weren't sort of like pulling on the lead. We weren't stopping her. We weren't making her do anything. The only thing I did try and do is try and keep her moving as much as possible, because with Twyla, if she gets stuck and she's looking at something, she almost becomes obsessed with that thing. Whereas if we can keep her moving, then she finds it easier to move away, to get her ham, and then to repeat the process. The few times she did get stuck, I made a point of walking between her and the kitten, just to break her line of eye contact with them, and then she was able to carry on walking back towards the kitchen with me. So after a little while, I had her literally walking into the living room, glancing at the kitten, gathering a little bit of information for a few seconds, and then moving away again and getting rewarded for it. And we were doing this quite calmly, and actually it was really good practice for her loose lead walking as well, because she was just kind of plodding along beside me, getting a look at the cat and then moving away again. And in doing this, she was able to get all the information she needed about the kitten without getting them both into a situation where neither of them could cope. They're too close, and there was a risk of the cat scratching her or anything like that. There was none of that. We were literally letting her get some information and move away calmly. And after a little while of that, just a few minutes or so, she was actually more interested in the ham than she was the kitten. And we took that as a success, and we stopped there, because we always stop when we're winning. And we practiced that several more times throughout the day, just for a minute or two at a time, and making sure that all the interactions were really calm and controlled, and not letting them get too close to each other. And then, making sure that there was always a lead, that the cat was always behind the pen, etc., so they're always safe at the same time. And then during that day, then the cat was allowed to roam freely when Twyla was upstairs, or we could continue doing the scent swapping and that kind of thing. When we took her out for another walk, then the cat was allowed to roam around then as well. So by the second day, not only were they looking at each other from a distance and being able to come away from each other without, any sort of bother. They were still doing all the scent swapping, but they were starting to settle in together quite nicely. Now, some dogs and cats will take a bit longer than that, and if you are struggling at that point, then it's best to go as slowly as possible. What you don't want is to be putting them into a situation they can't cope with, because that'll only make things worse, not better. But anyway, the next day we began allowing Twyla and Catticus to be in the same room together for most of the day. Now, Twyla was still wearing her lead, but I was letting it trail behind her rather than hanging onto it constantly. And she was still being rewarded from coming away and disengaging from the cat. And the cat was still being really carefully monitored for any signs of distress while being kept safe in the pen. And both of the pets were being given lots of space and lots of breaks from each other. So although they were in the room together quite a lot, I was making sure that I was playing with Twyla at one end of the room. We were doing lots of things down the garden. We were pottering about, and I was making a point of actually taking her mind off of the cat while having the cat in the room. And both the pets at that point actually fell asleep on several occasions, because the whole room was just so relaxed and chilled. And although the two pets knew the other one was there, and if they were allowed to get too close to each other, there's still the risk that they might overwhelm each other. They'd actually started to learn that the other pet was not, something as exciting as they first thought, that they were capable of being in a room without having to be obsessed with each other, without having to get too excited around each other, and the whole atmosphere just got really, really lovely and settled. Now, a little bit later on, Twyla actually started to roll the cat her ball. Now, she does this with us when she wants us to play with her, so although this is wonderful that she wants the cat to play, obviously the cat might be a little bit concerned about a blundering great Twyla and a ball rolling towards them. So we're not still out of the woods, as she is big and clumsy, and Catticus is small and he's got big claws. So very careful supervision is still very, very, very necessary, because if they're now just starting to make friends, we don't want them to have a misunderstanding. So the other things that we're doing, let me think now, is their food is being kept very separate, because Twyla is a notorious thief when it comes to food, and we don't want her stealing the cat's food. And at the same time, we don't want her to suddenly discover that the cat might eat her food and take up guarding it. So rather than allowing that behaviour to happen at all in the first place, we're just feeding them separately. All treats and things like that are being given to Twyla straight to her mouth, so there's nothing left laying around for the cat to find. And the same with the cat as well. Things are going straight into his pen, so that nothing is available for Twyla to find. And if the cat is roaming around the house, then he's getting things straight to his mouth. So there is nothing left for them to guard. There is nothing left for them to steal. Now, they're both going to sleep in separate rooms. Twyla sleeps in my room in her crate, and Catticus will be sleeping with my daughter in his pen where he's safe, and they will not be left alone together under any circumstances at the moment while we're all finding our feet. But the early signs are that they're settling in really well together. And by us deciding and making a really conscious effort to not allow them to be overexcited near each other, to not allow them to scare each other, to not allow them to play too boisterously with each other, that this sort of thing will continue. We really, really, we've always had cats and dogs together, and I can't see that this is going to be a problem any more than any other cat and dog combination we've ever had. But no doubt you guys will be hearing all about it as their relationship progresses. But yeah, I'm really confident that this is going to be great. If ever you want to learn more about having a fun, not a fear life with your dog, do come and check out our club and school at www.funnotafear.co.uk, or our on-the-ground business, locksdogs.co.uk, where you can find out all about your dog's behaviour and how to have an amazing life with them. Well, I'll be keeping everyone in my little world up to date with how the kitten and the dog's relationship progresses. It's so important not to rush these things, and if you take anything away from today's podcast, it's that management and patience are the key to successfully integrating pets. So, that's it for this episode of the Fun Not Fear Dog podcast. Hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed putting it together for you. Don't forget, if you like what you heard and you want help for your dog, you can also check out our one-to-one services, or you can join our Fun Not Fear club and get courses and resources and interactive lives with a qualified behaviourist and trainer for less than £2 a week at locksdogs.co.uk. And remember, there is nothing that can be taught with fear that can't be taught with fun apart from fear itself. See you next time.